The trial hall pulsed with noise as cages were rolled in from every corner. Hisses, clicks, and shrieks echoed against the alloy walls. The instructor's voice cut through it all. Each of you was told to bring a small predator from your world. Show us what you consider dangerous. The first cadet stepped forward, a Varnex with shimmering blue armor plates and a snout built for shredding meat. He tapped the side of a reinforced container with his claw. Inside, a scaled raptor, the size of a human toddler, slammed its claws against the glass, venom dripping from its fangs onto the floor, where it hissed and ate away at the plating. Trained to track heat signatures across 6 kilometers, the cadet announced. One bite will shut your lungs in 20 seconds. The class murmured in appreciation. Next came a wiry insectoid from the Iskari Reach. Their predator was no larger than a backpack, limbs spindly and twitching. Its mandibles snapped at the air, loud enough to echo. It moved like smoke and rattled the cage so violently that even the instructor leaned slightly back. Known to climb wind-blown cliffs, the Iskari cadet said, pride seeping from every syllable. It spits acid, latches to faces. A third cage slid into place on magnetic treads. Its contents shimmered nearly invisible. A glass-skinned lizard, almost delicate, except for the thick, barbed tail, curling and uncurling with slow menace. The cadet beside it was from the Darhex system, their face split with an unsettling grin. It injects a neuroparalytic through the air. You'll drop before you feel pain. Talvek, the instructor, nodded. Accepted. Another cadet showed a 6-legged ambush beast with iridescent carapace and teeth like broken glass. One of the smaller predators caught a scent and screeched, throwing itself against its enclosure before the field restraint reactivated. The room buzzed with approval. 16 species, 16 predators, 16 ways to end a life in seconds. Then the human's turn arrived. From the back of the room, Jackson Lee walked forward with no cage, no armor, no containment field, just a soft black carrier dangling from his right hand. It swayed lightly with each step, and whatever was inside didn't make a sound. The aliens glanced at one another. Talvek narrowed his eyes. Human, present your specimen. Jackson set the carrier down gently, unzipped the top. Out stepped a domestic cat. Sleek, black, gold-eyed. Its tail flicked once, slow and calculated. The cat didn't hiss, didn't arch its back. It took one long look at the ring of cages, padded out 4 steps onto the smooth training floor. Then Saturday, it licked its paw. The laughter hit like a detonation. A Fayori cadet gripped her sides. That's no hunter, that's prey. It's so soft, the Mesrith wheezed. It doesn't even have scales. Does it shed its claws in fear? One of the Varnex leaned forward. Is this a training animal for your real predator? Talvek held up a hand. Order. He turned to Jackson. This is your predator? Yes, sir. It hunts? It doesn't need to right now. More laughter, though quieter this time. The cat rose, stretched its back, then started walking. It didn't run, it didn't crouch. It just moved, fluid and silent, between the cages of the other predators. That's when the shift happened. The scaled raptor from the Varnex lunged forward in its enclosure. Not at the cat, but away from it. The insectoid stalker clung to the far side of its case, trembling slightly, its snapping mandibles going still. The neuro-lizard froze mid-coil, tongue retracting. Its eyes locked onto the cat. Then, blinked. Slowly. And stayed that way. The class fell quiet. Talvek's brow furrowed. Is this a behavioral trigger? Jackson shook his head. No, sir. What's it doing? Walking. The cat paused in front of the Iskari's insectoid. It stared at the thing for 3 seconds, blinked, then sat down again. Its tail flicked once. The insectoid began to shudder. This isn't... The Iskari cadet started, but stopped as his predator backed into the corner of the cage, now clicking softly to itself. Across the room, another predator, the ambush beast with the crystal hide, let out a low whimper and crouched. The cat yawned. Talvek turned to Jackson. This animal is not enhanced? No pheromone suppressant? No neuromanipulation? Jackson scratched the back of his neck. No, sir. Just a regular house cat. Her name's Sophie. The silence now felt brittle. Talvek walked slowly toward the cat, stopping just outside a meter. The cat stared up at him. "I'm getting no aggression readings," he said. "Nothing in the threat register. She doesn't need to posture. But she's not intimidated. She's never been." Talvek's eyes narrowed. "Back home, what do these hunt?" Jackson smiled faintly. "Mice, birds, lasers on walls." One cadet from the Kelvosh quadrant spoke up nervously. It made the glass lizard back down. Talvek looked down again. "Why?" Jackson said. "Back home, they hunt for fun, and this one's not even hungry." The laughter didn't return. In fact, it never would. The exercise was supposed to end with an evaluation, cadets explaining behavioral traits, showcasing restraint training, listing nutritional needs and handler protocols. Instead, nobody spoke. Sophie was still sitting. Her tail curved around her paws. She hadn't blinked in 20 seconds. In front of her, the Iscarian insectoid, a creature designed to breach hardened bunkers, crouched low, limbs tucked beneath its armored body. Its mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. Talvek broke the silence. "We will proceed to comparative analysis. Each cadet will provide a summary of their specimen's hunting profile." He turned. "Human, you may remove your animal from the floor." Jackson approached calmly, reached down with practiced ease, and tapped the back of Sophie's neck. She stood, stepped neatly into the carrier, and vanished behind the mesh screen as if nothing unusual had occurred. No struggle, no leash, no threat response. "Containment complete," Jackson said, zipping the top. The Kelvosh cadet, Jar, stepped forward next. He cleared his throat. "My specimen, the Taural strike beast, utilizes olfactory tracking and pulse detection. It can follow a target across 4 terrain types and prefers to disable via venom spike. Kill time on small prey is under 11 seconds. The creature, encased in a carbon weave cage, was now crouched against the far wall. It had not moved since Sophie passed it. No one commented. Fiore went next. The Kara razor deploys static disrupting hairs before pouncing. Reflex-based, it has brought down adult grazers in tandem strikes. Her Kara razor was rotating in slow circles inside its cage, eyes flicking to every corner anywhere that wasn't the center of the room. The analysis continued, but it felt hollow now. Even Talvek sensed it. Their predators were shrinking. It wasn't biology. It wasn't pheromones. It was the stare. The cadets had seen it, unblinking, unhurried. The way Sophie had walked between rows of apex killers without so much as a twitch of muscle. No defensive posture. No threat display. Just the calm stillness of something that already knew it was higher on the food chain. Even if it wasn't. Even if it shouldn't have been. When the final predator was logged and recaged, Talvek dismissed the room for cooldown and debrief. Most cadets filed out in awkward silence, whispering only when they were halfway down the corridor. Jackson lingered. He was checking the ventilation slits on Sophie's carrier, tucking a water packet into the side. Talvek watched him for a moment. "She's not trained for combat." "No, sir." She didn't respond to the others like prey. "She never does." Talvek glanced at the closed carrier. "What is she, really?" Jackson looked up. "A predator who's never had to prove it." Talvek didn't reply. He didn't need to. That night, the surveillance hall logged unusual activity. At 2:13, the door to Jackson's dorm slid open with a quiet hiss. No alarm sounded, no forced entry. The hallway camera caught the flick of a long tail vanishing into shadow. Sophie. She had unzipped her own carrier. 2 hours later, the system pinged again. "Motion alert, East Hall, Storage Sector 7. When the security subroutine zoomed the footage, it caught the tail end of a shape moving low to the floor, something small and fast weaving past cleaning drones and empty benches. The tracking system tried to lock on, but the heat signature was inconsistent, almost feline, but not standard. At 5:41, she returned. The carrier zipped again, on its own. The footage went dormant. But that morning, when the janitorial bots did their sweep, they found something near the loading bay. A feather, red, wet at the tip. No known species in the dormitory carried feathers, especially not red ones. The next day, whispers began. The Mesrith cadet who had laughed loudest, Dara, now kept a careful meter of distance from Jackson. She avoided eye contact with him. More curiously, she avoided eye contact with the carrier. During the afternoon briefing, the Ascari, whose predator had frozen under Sophie's stare, asked a quiet question during break. "Do they all purr?" "Most of them," Jackson said. "Even when they hunt?" "Especially when they hunt." The Ascari didn't ask anything else. In the dining hall that evening, a Fiore sat 2 seats farther than usual. She didn't say why, but her food tray was placed noticeably out of reach of the carrier, just in case. On the 3rd day after the demonstration, the Academy sent an internal memo. Unauthorized species activity, nighttime movement logs under review. Security footage attached. Playback restricted to instructor access. Talvek watched it 3 times. He paused it just before Sophie's silhouette disappeared from frame. Paused it again when she returned. Each time, the chill was the same. She had walked calmly, tail high, eyes forward, same as she had in the Predator Hall. No panic, no rush, no fear. A being without armor, without weapons. Unbothered by teeth and venom. Unbothered by cages. Talvek closed the log and opened Jackson's personnel file. There was nothing special listed. Academically average, physically competent, behaviorally stable. But one note at the bottom stood out. A single line from an earlier instructor. Observant under pressure, carries odd confidence, keeps a cat, seems harmless. Talvek stared at that last phrase. Then rewrote it. Seems harmless, so does the cat. For 3 days after the trial, every cadet walked differently. It wasn't conscious, it wasn't even coordinated, but they all did it faster movements near corners, wider arcs when rounding a bench, more frequent glances behind. Their predators had been secured, logged, and shipped back to containment. Their assignments had been graded and filed. But the quiet unease that lingered in the halls had nothing to do with the venomous lizards or the acid-spitting stalkers. It had everything to do with the soft-footed thing still living in dorm unit B4. Sophie. Jackson never addressed it. He acted the same as he always had. He studied in the same booth in the library, ate in the same seat in the dining hall, filed his reports early, never bragged, never offered explanation. And that made it worse. Because if he wasn't worried, what did that mean? The Mesrith, Dara, had requested reassignment to a different dorm wing, officially citing air quality discomfort. The counselor approved it with a note reading, "Temporary sensory accommodation." Unofficially, she refused to sleep within 50 meters of Sophie's scent. She had described it in a whispered conversation during interspecies ethics class. "It's quiet, but heavy. Like something watching you even when it isn't." The Ascari cadet, Rilvek, confirmed this. "My crawler before it was shipped out would not eat for 2 days. Not after that stare." No one laughed. Not anymore. Instructor Talvek observed quietly from his office above the training deck. Sophie was listed as non-combat companion animal, but he had added a private annotation to her record. Displays traits consistent with apex behavior in the presence of multi-species predators, recommended for psychological field analysis. He didn't broadcast it. But the file was shared with the Academy's Behavioral Science Division under restricted status. Meanwhile, Jackson was called into a new type of briefing, small, casual, off the schedule. 3 other cadets, 1 instructor, and a holo display showing planetary predator types across the galaxy. The discussion topic? Predator intent versus capacity. Jackson listened more than he spoke, but when pressed, he offered a few lines that stuck with everyone in the room. "Most predators kill because they need to," he said, "to eat, to defend territory. But a few kill because they can." "Which is worse?" the instructor asked. "Neither," Jackson replied, "but only one of them will sit on your keyboard while you're trying to work." The Fiore across from him blinked. "She does that?" "Every day." "Why?" Jackson shrugged. "Because she wants to. She doesn't care about the reason, and that's the difference." The room was quiet for a while after that. One evening, the janitorial staff reported a maintenance drone found turned over near the waste processing chute. Its side panel was dented. Internal logs suggested it had encountered an obstruction, paused, then been knocked onto its back. There was no footage. But the security logs showed a nearby door sensor triggered 30 seconds prior to the drone's distress ping. That door? Jackson's baromet. The drone's cargo bay was later found to contain a dead dry feather, a migratory avian known for nesting in exhaust vents, native to no part of the academy. Its presence in the dorm sector raised questions. Talvek reviewed the discovery, then called Jackson in for an informal talk. "You know anything about this?" he asked, holding up a projected image of the dry feather. Jackson looked for a moment, then nodded. "Used to find those near my cousin's shop, loud little things. This one was found in a cleaning drone's bin." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Guess it made poor choices." "And your cat?" "She doesn't talk." Talvek studied him. "Did you bring her here because she's dangerous?" "No," Jackson said. "I brought her because she's mine. But I didn't pretend she was something else." Talvek leaned back. "You knew how the other predators would react." "I suspected." "Based on what?" Jackson hesitated only a moment. "Instinct. Hers. And theirs." Talvek nodded slowly. "That instinct," Jackson added, "doesn't always make sense. But it's old. It's not learned. It just is." Talvek logged the conversation, then updated the behavioral database. Under cross-species predator analysis, a new entry was added. Species: Felis catus, domestic cat. Threat level: unknown. Observed impact: induced flight and submission in multiple apex-level species. Primary weapon: psychological pressure. Behavioral note: displays no fear in high-threat environments. Responds selectively. Predation not consistent with hunger, possibly recreational. The next day, Sophie climbed into Jackson's lap during breakfast in the Commons. He was trying to finish a report. 3 cadets stopped mid-stride when they saw her. One veered away entirely. The other 2 approached with cautious curiosity. "She doesn't mind the noise?" the Faori asked. "She is the noise," Jackson said without looking up. "Does she attack?" the Mesrith whispered. "Only if she's bored." "Is she bored now?" Jackson looked down at the soft purring lump in his lap. "No, she's watching." The Faori glanced around. "Watching what?" "Everything." That answer didn't help. But neither cadet stayed long after. The final week of the term arrived with a rare assignment. Cadets were to submit a full behavioral analysis on their predator specimen, drawing from trial observations, cross-species responses, and, as the instructor put it, any anomalies worth noting. For most, the task was mechanical. They logged known traits, described their creature's dietary habits, sensory adaptations, attack styles, and hunting rituals. The usual. But for Jackson, it wasn't as easy. Sophie didn't hunt when watched. She didn't perform on command, didn't hiss or bare fangs. She didn't even seem dangerous unless you understood her. Her greatest threat, he realized, wasn't action. It was presence. So he didn't write a standard report. He wrote about what didn't happen. No scratches, no escapes, no noise, no misbehavior. Just a cat who walked calmly into a room full of apex predators and made every single one question its place. His opening line read, "She hunts like she's remembering something the rest of us forgot." When he handed it in, Talvek read the first paragraph and silently nodded. No questions, no corrections. By now, Sophie's reputation was firmly embedded in the Academy's informal lore. Stories floated between the younger cadets most had never seen her, but they knew the tales. That she could disarm a venomous lizard with a look. That she slept beside weapons lockers and nothing dared move. That once, when a first-year accidentally triggered a fire drill near Dorm B4, Sophie walked into the middle of the chaos, stretched and yawned, then returned to her carrier as if she had been conducting the drill. None of this was recorded officially. But it didn't matter. The behavior was enough. It was after lights out on a quiet, windless night that the alert came. Perimeter sensors flagged a bioform breach near the south wall of the Academy grounds. Initial scans failed to identify the signature. Too small for an adult, too fast for wildlife. No heat trace consistent with cadets. By the time patrol drones arrived, the breach had disappeared. No footprints, no tampering, just one strange detail. A small set of claw marks on a vent cover, too shallow for weapons, too deliberate to be weathering. That morning, Talvek reviewed the alert personally. He cross-referenced drone footage, timestamps, sector maps, security patterns. He found nothing conclusive. Except one thing. At 3:41, motion logs noted the quiet re-entry of a biometric signature through Dorm B4's side panel. Not forced, just used. As if someone, or something, had already known how to open it. Talvek visited Jackson's dorm after morning call. He didn't knock. He just stepped inside and looked around. Jackson was lacing his boots. "Sir?" Talvek didn't answer right away. He walked slowly to the center of the room, past the footlocker, past the desk, and stopped beside the soft carrier perched on the window ledge. The flap was half-zipped. Inside, Sophie was asleep. Curled, serene, breathing slow and steady. Her paw twitched once. Talvek watched her for a moment, then turned to Jackson. "There was an alert last night." "I heard." "Did you see anything?" "No, sir." "Azar." Talvek eyed him. "You didn't check the logs?" Jackson shrugged. "Didn't need to." The instructor considered that. He crossed to the door, paused, and said without turning back, "You may not be able to bring her on off-world assignments." Jackson nodded. "I know. But the way others behave around you now, that won't change, even if she stays behind." Jackson smiled faintly. "That's the thing about instinct. It sticks." Graduation came 2 weeks later. The ceremony was stiff, formal, layered in tradition. Cadets stood in full dress uniform, flags of each species hung high overhead, oaths were recited, honors awarded. When Jackson crossed the stage to receive his insignia, the applause was polite. But every single cadet who had been there for the Predator trial gave him a longer look. A pause. A shared memory of something they still didn't understand. Later, after the crowds thinned, someone from Fleet Command asked about the human who brought the soft thing. "Did it ever bite anyone?" "No." "Scratch anyone?" "No." "Then what's the threat?" Talvek, standing off to the side, replied before anyone else could. "She's the reason everything else stayed in its cage." Sophie didn't attend the graduation. She slept through it, according to the dorm cam. Moved once to the windowsill, tail twitching slightly, then returned to the bed and didn't stir. After Jackson packed his things, he returned one last time to the room. The hallway was empty. Most cadets had left already. He zipped the carrier gently. "Come on," he said softly. The flap opened, and Sophie stepped inside. No fuss, no hesitation. She didn't look back. Out in the corridor, a janitor bot rolled past them, paused briefly, then backed up a few centimeters to give them space. Jackson didn't notice. But Sophie did. She turned her head, looked at the bot for a full second, then flicked her tail once before vanishing into the mesh. And the bot continued on, giving her more room than it gave anyone else.